Hello, my name's Anthony Condon and welcome to the NVivo method, part 3. In the previous two videos, we loaded all of our data into NVivo and then coded in all of our search strings. Now these search strings you can see here, they will become essentially our y-axes on our graph. So these are the lists of words that I want to check over time. So you can see here, some of them are items, some of them are sources. The items ones is where each instance of each word is coded, and the sources means that if any of the words are in the source is coded. So that's why the source ones are lower. So all of these items and sources, these strings, these will form our y-axes, and the months that we classified in will become our x-axes. So what we need to do now is matrix coding queries to export these as a file that graphing software can read. I now need to do what's called a matrix coding query. And what this does compares my source classifications against my strings and pumps out a CSV file that MATLAB can then read. Now the rows, so the rows is your x-axis. So I want my source classifications in here. Easiest way is to do that and unselect. Now I don't want the unassigned and not available because that will upset the data going into MATLAB. So I've gotten rid of those. Not a massive drama, you could edit around it. It's just easier to take it out here. Unless of course you need those as part of what you're doing, but that would be a different project. Okay. And this is an NVivo trick. You have to then add it to list. The first time I used NVivo, that confused me no end. Now in my columns, I want my strings. Now I could actually select all of these and that would pump it out, and I would have each one of these against, I would have each one of these nodes against each month, and I would have a multi-grid, a gridded CSV file, and then I could use, and then MATLAB would be able to sort that out, or I could graph everything together. This would be much quicker, and the next time I did this project, I think I would have it so that the whole project comes out as one, and then MATLAB deals with it, because that's just writing one piece of code for MATLAB to deal with it, as opposed to rather than doing this once 30 times, I've had to do this 11 times, 30 times. So that has significantly increased the amount of work that I've had to do. But the first time going through doing this project, I was more than happy to just take it slow and make sure that I was able to find where the errors were. Doing things in big blocks means you have to find an error in a big block as opposed to a little block. So let's run that. That's going to pop up over here. My matrix coding query. So just to show you what this looks like, so here we go. In December 1918, there were 128 occurrences of my aggressive words. And you can see that over time there. Now I want to export that. Now you can see down here, this jumps up quite a lot down. Well, it sort of, it goes through a lull and then drops off. There's a chance that that is actually a lull and things dropping off. But there's also a chance there just wasn't as many articles written in those months, and that's why you have to do the total sources. So, okay, where am I saving this to? Now, I don't have to worry about being on my C drive. I can put this stuff all on my external drive in my MATLAB folder. And it seems weird to be exporting it to a folder called MATLAB, but it's because this is where MATLAB reads from the data file. And you can see here I've got all my newspapers. I want the referee. I've got my other two in here already, so I'm just going to do a new folder. Post-war, no spaces, as you can see, because MATLAB does not like spaces, so you can never use spaces if you're going to use MATLAB. For example, the file names. Now, I don't just go and write the file name here. I've had a habit of, I go into the one previously, and I just pick the first one, and then I go back up, back over to where I need to go, and then change this to the right period, post-war aggressive item. It may seem like a bit of a mess around, but what doing this has ensured is that every single file name is the same. If you don't have the same format of file name for each thing, it's going to really stuff up MATLAB. MATLAB's very particular about this kind of thing. So you, like I said, no spaces in MATLAB, hence the underscores, but it's also why everything is in this very one standardized item. But it doesn't go in wartime, it goes in post-war. Okay, so save. And then last run query, leave that alone. Columns. Don't go and do a new matrix coding every time because you have to add in these rows every time. So save yourself a few clicks. Last run query. Columns. Clear that one out. Select. Go over here. Strings. Aggressive. And so you can see here, this is the amount of articles. And you know that pattern is a little bit repeated here with articles. Looks a little bit less to me, but that's why we do graphs. So export that. Now just aggressive item. Change that to aggressive source. So I'm never writing in a file name for this. It's always editing an old file name. Potential for mistakes there, but for me, less potential than writing in the file name every time. So I'll just go through and do all of these matrix coding queries, and then we will have our data set, and I'll show you what we do next with that. So you saw there that I just picked the aggressive item. So for each one, I pick the item of the previous and then change the name. And you'll also notice that no hyphen in here because MATLAB don't like hyphens either. Oh, this is a place where I have made a number of errors. I've ended up using the wrong... I've ended up calling it the wrong thing. And that obviously is not good. So what I like to do when I'm doing this is I have the actual folder open. I have it off in my other window. And that means I can just very easily look over and see, oh, yep, I did the Charteris Black item, so I am up to the Charteris Black source, which is this one. And that saved me a couple of times. It just makes it easy. That is it. That's now generated all of those files that you can use in your graphing software. So the last thing to do is to save the project. And that's now all complete. I am going to show you one final thing that I like to do. So because I have these all in 3 time periods, and I actually do want to look at the whole time period, I now go and stitch together the CSV files that have been generated in Excel so that I have another lot for MATLAB to do. I could have gotten MATLAB to do this automatically, and in the future I probably would, but I just found it easier to do it in Excel rather than learn how to do that in MATLAB at the moment. But it's definitely, it would be much easier if I was doing it in MATLAB. But I'm not, and I'm doing it in Excel. And it's actually been a little bit of a benefit, and I'll explain that. So while I do this, I'll just switch screen to show you what I'm doing over here. So while looking through and stitching these all together has been one of the main times that I've found errors that I've made. Particularly, I mean, to be honest, the biggest error I've made was the dates that I explained earlier. And this is when I first, doing this bit here is when I first picked this out. So just let me, and as you can see, I'm just setting up some windows here so that it's easier for me to get everything up. So you can see I've got pre-war, wartime, post-war. So I've got all of the things that I need here. So I can go one, open, and that'll open up in Excel. You can see that come up behind. That one opens up in Excel, and that one opens up in Excel. So I'm just going to be doing that each time, but I'm going to turn this screen off so you don't need to see that stuff. What's going on here? There we go. Okay, so I want to minimize the Excel sheets. And that's wartime. Minimize all. Okay, so now I just have this wartime. Post-war goes over here. And pre-war goes here. Control N, get a new window up. Shift that over so I can look at it. Keep this top line in here. And just copy that. Paste that. But no longer do I keep these lines, the top line in. So that goes over. Post that. And then have that one. And then post that. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this is because if I go back to my quantification document, you can see here I should have 109 total cells. The pre-war should end at cell 31, the wartime 84, the post-war 109. So you can see here I do have 109, and the endpoints are 84, 31, and so I know that is all good. I've got the right number of months. This is actually where I found the fact that I'd made big mistakes the first time. Across the first few, I made this mistake quite a lot before I got really into checking that I had all the dates. Another place you can check them is when you add the source classifications into your matrix coding query. But now we just need to save as, and you see I've already saved this. But I did the same thing as before. I went into another one, grabbed that name, went back, went into all, and just changed that to all. But I don't need to do that, I've already done that. And then it's just a matter of control F4, 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 F4. And then in my other windows, we have everything ready to open up. So I get the second one through. You can see that they come. Post-war goes over there. Wartime goes over here. And pre-war goes here. Control N. And we go through this process for each one. But you don't need to see that. You've seen this one. So that now, you should now have a data set that looks like this. That you can then load into MATLAB to punch out funky graphs for you, or you can do it in Excel. I did my first lot of these in Excel, and just MATLAB's obviously. For doing one newspaper, Excel was fine. It wasn't worth learning MATLAB for just one newspaper. But yeah, once I have this many different things that I need to graph, I want something that does that all automatically, that I have nothing to do with. Just pumps out graphs for me. And so that's it. I've been Anthony Condon. Thank you for watching my NVivo method for quantitative data analysis of word frequency. If you would like to email me, I am anthonykondon@gmail.com. Feel free to ask me any questions you have about it. Or if you've got any suggestions, if you try this method and anything works better, or you manage to answer some of the questions that I had along the way, please get in touch, because this is how methods grow and become better. And this is definitely not the last word on how to do this. I expect that there are many things I'm doing here that could be done much better, and I imagine that some mathematicians will possibly look at the way I do things and cringe. So it'd be nice to know anything along those lines that look like I might have been making mistakes, or that can be done better, or a way that this methodology can become more useful in the humanities. I'll leave it there, and thank you very much.